Time again for another edition of ACC Baseball Etc. presented, as always, by our friends at Pitch Logic, the system used by players, coaches, scouts, and instructors at all levels of play, from youth leagues to the big leagues. The easy-to-use and affordable technology makes the platform accessible to every player at every level. All the metrics and features used at the highest level. Go to pitchlogic.com for more information. It is another in our preseasoning series of head coach conversations, interviews with all 16 ACC head baseball coaches. Coach, it still feels weird to say that number, given that we've added the two. But I'm happy to be joined by Georgia Tech's Danny Hall, one of the legends in our sports, and still at it and going strong here in the ACC. Danny, great to see you. I hope the offseason treated you well. I know it's you're rolling downhill on skates now that the new year has started. ABCA is kind of the kickoff, right, to that, and it's on from there. So I hope you're doing well.
Doing well, Daron, and thanks for having me on. It's always a pleasure to get on with you. And yeah, we're full speed ahead and full steam ahead. Just trying to get everything ready for an upcoming season here, but it's an exciting time.
It is. I think it is pretty exciting for your Yellow Jackets team, and we'll get through sort of the highlights of the roster. First, though, as sort of one of the elder statesmen of the league, I mentioned the two new teams. I was joking with a coach earlier today that I haven't really ever had to deal with coordinating time zone differences when arranging interviews with coaches and things like that. But now with the two California teams, Cal and Stanford, that's just a minor piece of some of the changes. How will trips out west change things for your team, compared to what they normally are with maybe a flight to the Triangle area in North Carolina?
Well, I think it definitely presents its challenges, and we're gonna experience that first weekend in April. We get to go to Stanford and play out there, and then we come home the next weekend and play Cal. So we'll full circle on the West Coast, this year. So but it's exciting. You've got two storied programs coming into the league that will add tremendous value, and our league's already hard enough. It's only going to get harder with those two teams coming in. And but again, I think our players will look forward to getting an opportunity to go to the West Coast, which they don't get often, and go play at Stanford. And then, like I said, you come home and play Cal. And so here we go. It's full circle. And, but I think, more importantly, I think it's just something that the players will look forward to.
Yeah, for sure. It is experiential, right? Generally speaking, it's a trip out west for some of these guys who maybe have not done that a ton in their lives. Is there anything in here that you're going to get to experience for the first time as a head coach that maybe you're looking forward to? I don't know if you've ever coached a game at Stanford or anything like that.
Never played at Stanford. I went out there. My oldest son, Carter, was recruited by Stanford, and so he and I took a visit out there when he was trying to decide where he was going to go to school. Mark Marquis hosted us, and so first time for me to get to see the campus and just understand, everything about Stanford. In my mind, I think Stanford's a lot like Georgia Tech. It's an outstanding academic institution. They've played great baseball for years, and so it was just a good opportunity, not only for my son, but for me to, learn more about the school and see the school. He ultimately chose Georgia Tech, which I was very happy about. But, that's the only time. I've never been to Cal, so have no idea, what that may look like. We play them here. But Stanford, I at least know what Sunken Diamond looks like.
Yeah, man. Isn't that great that, if you're one of those people who bemoans the conference expansion or whatever, I think it's great that we find silver linings in things. How cool is it that you, this deep into a very successful career, you're experiencing some things for the first time this year? I mean, that's neat to me.
No, I think it's great. I just think it's, It's again, kind of two historic programs between Stanford and Georgia Tech. And, Mike New back in the day was a pretty good pitcher for the University of Miami also. So it's not like he's not familiar with, this side of the country. So, no, I think it's something new and different. And again, I'll just, I'll keep saying it, like, just adds tremendous depth to our conference.
No doubt. No doubt. I want to start with maybe the obvious headliner for your Georgia Tech team. Drew Burress had a phenomenal freshman season. I saw him over the summer with Team USA. He was great there as well. What have you observed about his growth since day one as a Yellow Jacket to now?
Well, I don't know that anybody could have predicted the year that he had last year. I mean, you jump on the scene and hit 25 home runs as a freshman, fell one short of, the Georgia Tech record for home runs. But more importantly, just the person. Like, from day one, you never thought he was a freshman, like, very mature kid. He's one of those guys, which I think all the great players have this. They know where they're trying to get to. They know how they're going to get there. And then they put in the work daily just to make those little steps each day to try to get them to where they're trying to go. And he doesn't mix any words about it. Like, he wants to be a first-round pick. He wants to be the best player in the country. And that's just kind of what drives him. That's his passion. And, we benefit from that. And our players, he's one of those guys that just makes everybody around him better every day.
Yeah. And I'm reminded by the conviction with which he told you, and we got this initially through you, and then he joined us here on the show to talk about it later in the season last year. But this time last year, when you and I talked, you said, he's come into my office. He said, I want to graduate in 3 years because I want the degree, but I also plan to be the best player in the country. So my plan would be obviously to get drafted at the earliest possible instance of that, which would be after his junior year. That's spot on. He never once seemed like a freshman, and he took everything in stride with that sort of confidence. And you say we couldn't have predicted it, but at the same time, Coach, I don't know that any of us were surprised at the season that he had, right?
Yeah, no, I was not surprised. Like, I've, seen him do it from, a young age, just at every level, and playing in the top tournaments in the country each and every year, and just excelling against the best players in the country. So definitely not surprised. And then just to kind of, give you a little more credence. So you mentioned he was on Team USA. He started out in the Cape, went to Team USA, went back to the Cape. And all the time he's doing all that baseball-wise, he's taking a summer class. And so he's very dedicated to school, and he's very dedicated to baseball. And, if he graduates in 3 years, he'll be the first player I've had ever graduate in 3 years. So I'm not ruling that out. I'll just say it like that. Like, if there's anybody that can do it, it's going to be Drew.
No doubt. No doubt. Moving across the rest of the roster, you've got some additions, some returners. I think it's an exciting mix for you guys. What excites you about this team?
Well, I think you start with Drew. Yeah. I mean, the best players in the country. He's one of the best players in our league. He's a winner, and he wants to win. So you've got him sitting there in center field, and he's an outstanding defensive player. The guy that ended up catching regular for us last year, a young guy named Vaughn Lackey, that kind of came onto the scene very late, wasn't recruited heavily. All of a sudden, his senior year in high school, he's getting a lot of accolades. And James Ramsey, our recruiting coordinator, went to see him, and he was like, I think we need to take this guy. And he just from the get-go, as a freshman fall, he played extremely well. There's probably not a position on the field that he can't play. He's a tremendous athlete. He's got great instincts for the game, but, catching is where he's going to end up. So Vaughn ended up catching a lot, got great experience, played all summer in the Northwoods League, and he is an elite defender. His offensive numbers last year certainly wasn't what he liked, but I can see this guy coming like gangbusters with the bat. So you've got, again, middle of the field guy that, Vaughn is outstanding. And then we were very fortunate in recruiting that Drew Rogers, one of our talented freshmen, did not go in the draft last year. He was heavily scrutinized. He was in the combine, and we were fortunate to get him here. So we feel like at the catching position, we've got two really, really good players there. The good thing is Vaughn can, if we need to rest him, he can go play another position, which is really going to help. We took a kid in the transfer portal, Kyle Lodis, that was playing at Augusta State, which, is probably not a path that you see all the time where, a guy from that league or from Augusta State, and it's nothing against Augusta State. I know their head coach very well. He does a tremendous job, but we were fortunate to get Kyle. He's going to anchor shortstop. And then Carson Kearse, who played a lot of second for us last year. He played a lot of third. He will be in that infield somewhere. And then the old man, John Giesler, he's one of those 6-year guys that will be this will be his second year of being a captain. And I think he's one of the best seniors, in the country. 2 years ago as a junior, he led in ACC play. He led all hitters in OPS. Again, last year he backed it up with, I think, 12 homers, a bunch of RBIs. He was hurt quite a bit early on last year, but late in the year really kind of turned it on for us. And, between him and Burris, they're just two great leaders for our club. And then at first base, we, in the transfer portal, which is a real thing, we took Kent Schmidt, who had a really good year at Georgia Southern last year, hit for a good average, hit a few home runs, but he has been kind of everything we thought when we started recruiting him out of the portal last summer. But, he's going to hit somewhere in the middle of the lineup. He's left-handed. He can play first. He can play third. And his power has started to develop, which, I think it's something that, he wanted by choosing us. I think he realizes that we've had great, history of developing hitters. And, in my opinion, James Ramsey's one of the best hitting coaches in the country. And so we were fortunate to get him. And then the other guy that I think, started a bunch of games for us last year, Parker Brocious, will probably anchor down one of those outfield spots. Parker's an elite defender. If Drew Burris wasn't here, Parker Brocious would play center field every day. He's got tremendous skill out there. And he got into the Cape last year. He was in Hyannis, off to a great start, and then ran into the wall in Hyannis and kind of sublexed his shoulder and had to come home. So feel like just position player wise that we have some old guys, but in saying that, we have some young guys that have been very impressive. And our recruiting class was ranked number 2 in the country. And in my opinion, it's one of the most talented freshman classes we've had here in a long time. You flip over to the pitching side, I think we're very excited about just what we have there. Like returning, you had Tate McKee, who ended up starting on the weekends for us last year. I know he won 3 ACC starts. I think he finished the year maybe 3-2 in the ACC. Riley Stanford, who has kind of battled some injuries here, but went to the Cape last summer, pitched really well in the Cape, and he had a good fall. Mason Patel is a senior, transferred in last year, started our championship game last year in the regionals, pitched really well in that. Carson Ballard is a guy that is just a straight up walk on here. He's in his junior year. Ended up starting quite a few games for us last year midweek. Went to Cape and actually pitched for YD in the playoffs up there last year, and they won the game that he started. So we're excited about Carson. Just continues to make progress. And then kind of 2 relievers, older guys, Caden Gaudette and Brett Barfield, they were on the team last year and got some significant innings, and I'm sure they'll get significant innings again this year out of the pen. Then I think, you just look at some of the other transfer arms that we've got, feel good about that, and then feel really good about some of the freshman arms that we have. I think that our pitching staff will look way different than it has looked in quite some time, just in terms of guys that have talent, they have size, they have velocity. They've proven that they can win, kind of coming up through the amateur ranks and high school ranks. So we're excited. I think you hit it right on the head. Like, I don't think that anybody in our league would look at Georgia Tech and say, you know what, they're loaded. They're going to be great. But I do think that we have a chance, if it all goes together, to be really good. And
there's a lot there to be excited about. I'm going to touch on some follow-ups here. But first, another difference with the pitching staff, despite the types of guys that are there, the depth in there, you bring in a new pitching coach. After a stint as minor league pitching coordinator for the Braves, Matt Taylor joins the program. What can you tell us about what he has added to the dynamic?
He's a lot like James Ramsey in that he's an outstanding recruiter. He's an outstanding evaluator. I would say he's pretty tough on our pitching staff. Like, he expects a lot out of those guys. And probably last year with the group that, we kind of handed him, he didn't have much of a hand in recruiting some of those guys that pitched a lot for us last year. Helped us on the transfer side, but, his background of being a player, being a pro player, working in a couple front offices, going into scouting, going back into college, then going to the Braves. Like, there isn't anything probably going on the pro ball side in terms of development and scouting and evaluating that Matt hasn't done and hasn't seen. So, you look at Ramsey on the offensive side and Taylor on the pitching side. Those two guys work with great synergy on and it's the reason, honestly, that we had the number 2 ranked recruiting class. They kind of know what it's supposed to look like, and I think they understand Georgia Tech very well. Matt grew up, in Georgia, played for one of the legendary high school coaches in the state. So those two guys both just understand Georgia Tech and kind of what it takes to be a student athlete here. And, and I think this is the year that, we'll see the fruits of Matt Taylor's labor with the guys that we're going to try to run out there.
That is a perfect lead in, mentioning Matt's state of Georgia ties to my next question. You talked about some of these transfers. It's a different time in college baseball, right? We talked about that at the start. You guys somehow are still very Georgia-centric, even in a time of a transfer portal, right? You mentioned Kyle Lodise coming from Augusta. He is, for those who maybe hear that name and it sounds familiar, his cousin is Florida State infielder Alex Lodise. So Lodise is local, for lack of a better way to put it, right? Air quotes, local. And then first baseman Kent Schmidt, as a transfer, comes from Georgia Southern. Somehow you guys are still like very, very local in your recruiting, when that is as far the case universally as it's ever been in college baseball. There's got to be some intention with that approach from your coaching staff, right?
There definitely is. And I think if you look at just the high school programs in our state, all the amateur baseball with perfect game, prep baseball, that all those tournaments that get played in our state, a kid growing up in Georgia gets exposed to a lot as a baseball player, and they develop very well because of not only high school coaches, but summer coaches and all the training facilities that are available to them to train in. And then our motto at Georgia Tech has always been to take a high school kid, that's talented, develop them, give them an opportunity to play. And we've had a lot of success we've had 35 major league players in my 31 years, getting ready to go for 32. So there's been a lot of great things just from a development standpoint happen with that philosophy. The scary part, everybody's old in college baseball. So the challenge is, can we get some of these freshmen up and running to compete? And, I'll say it like this: last year, like North Carolina was running out freshmen early in the year as starting pitchers, and those guys were outstanding. And so that gives us hope that some of these talented freshmen that we have given opportunities early in the season, by mid-year and certainly towards the end, these guys may be running on all cylinders to, help us compete late in the year for championships. So I think for us, it's always going to be that model. We have a great base right here in Georgia, and we will step out and go, try to get some guys in some different spots. But, we don't want to overlook somebody that's sitting here in our state and just because we like somebody out of state. I'll say it like that. And Kent Schmidt would be a good example. Like, we knew who he was. We watched him play. He and Carson Kearse were, high school teammates. And so it was just kind of a situation where he probably needed to go to Georgia Southern and play a year and develop. And the beauty of it now, the way it is, you can transfer every year if you want to. So, he caught our eye when we played him last year. And we were, when he went into portal, we were like, yeah, we definitely want to talk to this guy.
Yeah. Yeah. It's cool how those have worked out for you guys, because in the case of a Georgia kid who ends up at a Georgia Southern or somewhere like Division II Augusta, like you said, nothing against those programs, but this might be a guy who has grown up dreaming of being a Yellow Jacket. And there are more opportunities for that to happen for a guy than there have been before. So again, with all the bad, there's all the good, and it's give and take in this new era of recruiting and such. You mentioned John Giesler. I love that he's back. And Coach, I'm going to quote our Joe Healy, who put it this way in the Georgia Tech Fall Report. He called Giesler, quote, an ultimate team guy who gets the job done on both sides of the ball, despite looking unconventional in just about everything he does on the field. It's I think a beautiful way to put it, because Gies is as crucial for your program as they come. He's been great in his time there, but there is a sense of, and I'm curious to know what it's been like from the coaching staff's perspective. There's a sense of that would be really easy to like overcoach and try to get out of him, right? And get him and just kind of like reconstruct everything. Yet you guys haven't, and it's paid off. What's the progression of his time at Georgia Tech been like from the first time you maybe saw him swing a bat and maybe were tempted to tinker a little bit, but decided not to?
He, his opportunities coming out of high school at this level probably were not great. Like, he had, I'm sure he looked at Ivy League schools and things like that, because he's a tremendous student. He's very smart. But if you went and watched him play, you just saw the infectious energy that he played with. He was one of those guys that was always pumping his teammates up, rooting for his teammates. And so that just kind of rubs off. So for us, a lot of times, and who in the heck knows where this is going, but we wanted to take walk-ons from our state. He was one of them. Like, we need to try to get this guy in our program. We have a great school to offer him, so it's going to give him every opportunity to do great things academically here. But again, he wanted the challenge of playing at the highest level he could play at. And so freshman year, probably didn't get play. I think he got hurt freshman fall, and he's battled some injuries just here and there, as he's played. But every time he got an opportunity, he kind of took advantage of it. And I want to say it was his sophomore year. He got some starts early, and he didn't get off to a good start. And we put him on the bench, so gave someone else a chance to play a little bit. But to his credit, he never complained about it. He rooted hard for his teammates. He wanted us to win. But behind the scenes, he was putting a lot of work in. And he would tell you that his whole mindset was, when I get my next opportunity, I'm not going to waste this. And he hasn't. And just an interesting thing. So he kind of got banged up a little bit early in the fall, had a little shoulder issue. So he didn't really play much this fall. But the story is this: we always play a little fall World Series amongst ourselves. So we're just playing two teams against each other. And Geisler's team has never lost in the fall World Series, a series. And they didn't this year. And he literally, I would say it like this: like, if you looked at the talent on the two teams, you're picking the other team to beat Geisler's team. And it wasn't even close. But he kind of likes to select the underdog guy. He kind of, he's like, I was an underdog. I'm going to take some underdogs, and I'm just going to pump these guys up, and I'm going to support them every which way I can. And he hasn't lost, and he's proud of that too. Like, you ask him, I mean, that's a major thing for him, but that's just the kind of guy he is. He's as good as it gets. And we were excited, like, kind of partway through the year last year, like Ramsey kept saying, he's like, I think Geisler's going to play another year. I think Geisler's going to play another year. And I'm like, seriously? And because that guy could walk out of here and just make major money right out of the gate in a job. But he loves Georgia Tech. He loves competing, and he loves playing baseball.
I love that so much. What a get for us for you and your Georgia Tech team, for sure. For us, and from my perspective, to have him in the league for one more year is just a joy. I'm looking forward to seeing him play one last season there for the Yellow Jackets. Danny, last thing for you. You mentioned this is going to be year 32. You are still lively and energetic and clearly have a passion for doing this and the sports. What keeps you that way from year to year?
All these young guys, I'm very blessed. I'll knock on wood when I say this, but I'm in good health. I have a great wife. My wife, Kara, she knows how passionate I am about it, and gives me the opportunity. She'd probably like for me to, just go be with her every day and travel and do some of the things she'd like to do. But she's all in on it too. She does a tremendous job throughout the season of hosting a bunch of our ex-players and alumni and boosters, at games. But I just love it. I love being able to impact young kids' lives, not only on the field, but off the field. And it's probably just a lot of DNA for me. My dad was my high school football and baseball coach, was an athletic director in Ohio for many years. And, he passed away a couple of years ago. I miss him. I just saw my mom. She's still kicking up there in Ohio. And, but I just kind of grew up in that household where, you played every sport. And my dad was a coach, and, you watch games on TV when you could. And, I was pretty close to Ohio U, so we used to go to basketball, football, baseball games there growing up. And it's just, like I said, been part of my life the whole time. And I love it. And I'm blessed right now. I've got a great staff. And, and I think a lot of great things are happening in our athletic association here at Georgia Tech. And, I know I can't coach forever, but I just want to enjoy it while I can. And, you have guys like Drew Burris and John Geisler running around every day. It's pretty good way to spend a few hours each day with those guys.
No doubt. Keeps you young. Why do anything else? What would you do? I mean, come on.
I know I'm going to have to do something. Like I can't just not do something. And I don't know what that's going to be yet. It'll probably involve something in baseball. And hopefully someone will say, this guy doesn't want to work full time, but maybe we can use him in some advisory role somewhere to, help them out. So we'll see.
I like that. That's for future Danny Hall. Present Danny Hall is still in it, still all in. Year 32 coming up, and the Yellow Jackets hoping for a big 2025 season. Coach, always great to see you. I love this time of year because I get to see people, and it means the beginning of the season is near us. That excites me so much. And I'm sure I'll see you again here soon at some point. I don't know where, but somewhere down the trail here for the season that we're about to embark upon.
Look forward to it. Thank you, Daron.